all-in yields for long end IG at 5.75%. It's off the peak. It's still good enough in our own view to actually catalyze some of this yield-based demand. I think really what you need to see is at the sector level, some incremental spread added to some of these deals. Now, we're seeing these kind of episodic periods of indigestion in the credit market. We're going to have a bit of a reprieve because we're in earnings blackout, so companies don't issue at the time of their quarter end and their earnings. So I feel like the market will pull back and tighten a little bit, but I think we should brace for periods and windows of heavy supply
Hello there. Just wanted to say, Primer is back. Oh, we've been scouring the frontiers of science and technology
and how it really has been from some of the tech names, in particular from some of the semis that have been able to charge whatever they want, and the hyperscalers have been on the hook to pay it. At what point do you see hyperscalers pushing back on both CapEx plans more broadly, as well as potentially on those prices?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. So first I would flag, let's just look at the whole tech sector as a big group. And when you see tech sector as a big group, it has given 9x returns in 10 years. So, very obvious, everyone has a lot of questions whenever you have seen something like 9x returns in 10 years. As in my whole take is, if you watch the whole sector, operating cash flow at all-time highs at 1.2 trillion, free cash flow, believe it or not, is at all-time highs. And then, of course, the message is you follow the cash flow, and following the cash flow, you end up, buying a lot of semis, you end up buying, avoiding the hyperscaler. So I think the pushback, if I have to see where my take is, and my whole outlook is called bullish, not blind. And the whole take on that is, if I see the second derivative of growth slowdown, that's first half next year. And when do I see free cash flow inflection from hyperscaler? That's second half next year. So there's a lot of tension, rotation, reversals, all of that is there next year. The only risk I would say for that is, if hyperscalers, of course, get together and they decide, hang on, we need to get the pricing power back. And to get the pricing power back, they have to form a cartel. And the way to do that in a capitalistic economy, I think that's really tough.
Manish, we got the sense from Barclays that it was almost uncomfortable to have to do this again, to have to upgrade. Do you feel that way?
Not as much for the reason, when I'm watching, different things that I mentioned, small cap, especially small caps where, expectations were extremely low to start with, and suddenly you have 20% earnings growth. For small caps, S&P's, 600 industrial, 30% earnings growth. When you add up those things, that gives you confidence on the operational leverage.
Manish, if you had to make a bet right now into year end, and forgive me for putting you on the spot, would you take the equal weight S&P or the market cap weighted S&P into year end?
So I have liked equal weighted S&P for 18 months now, and I still like it. I think that's a big position, because what does equal weight S&P offer? The biggest weight is industrials. Second biggest weight is financials. So if you're buying America first, which is what I see from White House, I like equal weighted S&P.
Interesting. Manish, appreciate your time, sir. As always, thank you. Manish Kabra there of SocGen, out of London this morning, looking for 8K on the S&P. That's up from 7,300. Basically had to pull forward. You heard him there. Had to pull forward a pretty bullish forecast on earnings to 26 from 27.
What I'm fascinated by is that everyone who seems to have upgraded their expectations says we're not blind. We do see problems, but they're 2027, 2028 problems. So right now you have to look at the numbers and respect them and lean in. And that's essentially the bull case. And that's what we see coming to fruition. Absolutely. Just pretty much have to lever up now, go all in, and just kind of worry about it in 2028. It's a kick the can down the road situation, but they're actually seeing the earnings improvement, and we're hearing it across the board.
We've seen it from bank after bank after bank after bank over the last few months, haven't we? Manish saying bullish, not blind on the S&P 500. He's not alone. We've had the same thing from other banks as well. And they're scrambling to keep up with what has been a shocking, stunning, positive earnings surprise.
My friend just hammers it home. Everyone was saying they can't get better than this. And guess what? They did. And that 80, mega margins, 80 to 85% margins, absolutely stunning.
Coming up tomorrow, another bull, John Stelfus of Oppenheimer, alongside Whaley of BlackRock, Bob Michael of JP Morgan, Kevin Gordon of Charles Schwab, and a whole lot more from New York City. Thank you for choosing Bloomberg TV. This was Bloomberg Surveillance.
Do you mind being called an ideological lunatic or a bunch of left-wing nut jobs?
I've been called worse things than that.
Oh, you think she owned the place?
23andMe, I think, is so incredibly valuable. We're coming back.
Have that kind of detective story feel to it. When you're hot on the trail of something, you know that it's very exciting. What magazines were you reading as a kid? I don't think I was reading magazines until I was in them. You are on the cover of all of these. Oh, and there's many, many more, but we still have time. Why should people trust you? I don't think anybody can trust any company or entity completely with any of this.
It's very uncomfortable. Artificial intelligence is this force that is far bigger than we are.
I want to build better businesses around these brands. The shock will never wear off.
So you're a brother and sister running one of the most powerful companies in the world. When you argue, who wins?
No one. The way I could see AI being banned or blocked is if something really went wrong. And if something really went wrong, then maybe it deserves to be.
So is it paradise ahead or Gattaca? Maybe somewhere in the middle.
The more successful economies in the region, the key to their success is continuity. But the way our constitution is written, it actually encourages a lack of continuity. And that's a problem. The term for local government is 3 years. When I first became congressman, it takes you a few months to learn the business and to make the connections, the network, etc. If, for example, you are not particularly favored in the majority, passing a law in a year and a half is not that easy to do. After about a year and a half, you already hear that there is somebody in your district beginning to campaign and is going to oppose you in the next election. So you have to go back to your district to take care of that. And how much work do you get done?
Join me each week on Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
At a rally to start your holiday shortened week. Isn't that nice? Just 30 minutes to go into the start of CAD trading. I'm Danny Berger. Bloomberg Open Interest starts right now. Coming up, tech bounces back as South Korea's AI spending push gives chip stocks a boost. Comcast shares soar on a plan to spin off NBC Universal and Sky into a new media company. Plus, the U.S. and Iran agreed to halt attacks after days of escalation. Talks in Doha are set for tomorrow. And by the way, news of those talks coming just hours before the opening trade. So nice for the fighting to only happen when markets are closed. Chip stocks, they're trying to rebound after Friday's big sell-off. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index dropped 5%. We had 5 straight days of selling last week, despite Micron trying to come to the rescue. There's also news of South Korea planning an $800 billion investment from SK Hynix and Samsung to maintain its standing as an AI hub. So NVIDIA and SanDisk are up, Micron slightly weaker. Let's head on over to the desk, though, because joining us this morning to talk all things tech and the narrative of the moment is Mandeep Singh, our Bloomberg Intelligence Head of Global Tech. Mandeep, good morning. Thanks for joining.
the South Koreans are actually investing their own money. We've all seen how much TSMC has benefited from Taiwan's involvement in terms of building, the fabs that they have done over the years. So from that perspective, it's not surprising for me to see, the sovereign involvement here.
Mandeep, great to see you this morning. Thank you for joining on this Monday. Bloomberg Intelligence has global tech coverage. Mandeep Singh. In deal news this morning, Comcast has announced plans to spin off NBC Universal and Sky. Will be a new media unit and separating it from its telecom business. Let's discuss with Bloomberg's Kelsey Griffiths. Kelsey, this isn't the first deal in recent times that Comcast has done, spinning off the Versant unit. But what has been the thinking behind spinning off NBC Universal and Sky this time?
Well, I was just listening to the investor call as Mike Kavanaugh and the Comcast executive suite gave us some updates on why they're doing this. And they said, look, we have multiple businesses that are really just focused on different priorities. For a while, scale seems like the best option. Now that we've seen the media businesses and the broadband business get more competitive, it seems like it makes more sense to split those companies off and focus on each doing what they do well individually.
Does some aspect of this also just have to do with the value of these media businesses? I think Versant has declined about 21% since it was spun off. I mean, might NBC Universal and Sky meet a similar fate, Kelsey?
And that's something that I think we're continuing to look at. Overall, Comcast has definitely been sort of struggling with their share price, especially over the last year. If you look at the broadband business, which is kind of my area of expertise, they've also been trying to look at how they can stem some of these customer losses. And yes, they're just deciding that a different structure makes sense here for the financial good of the business.
It does seem to be in just the telecoms, the variety of deals. I mean, there's Verizon this morning with BT. What was that about, Kelsey?
Now, Verizon, maybe somewhat similarly, is looking to do what they do in the US really well, and then to partner with BT on these international businesses. Verizon doesn't have the consumer wireless business internationally that we think of them having here in the US. So they're really looking for that partner to help them keep some of their private networks, some of their cybersecurity businesses, and some of these other things that they sell to enterprises going across the globe.
Kelsey, thank you very much for that. That's Bloomberg's Kelsey Griffiths. Let's turn to oil now, with Brent crude hovering below $73 a barrel after President Trump said that Iran has requested a meeting. In a Truth Social post, he said the meeting will take place in Doha tomorrow. Joining us now from Washington is Bloomberg correspondent Tyler Kendall, who covers the White House for us. Tyler, I mean, again, over the weekend, it seems to be a pattern. Over the weekend, escalation, and then before trading starts, de-escalation.
Right, Danny. I mean, at this point, it really does feel like repetition, though we're tracking now that there will be these planned talks later this week after we were supposed to see negotiations in Switzerland over the weekend, but they stalled because of what became the worst flare-up in fighting since this memorandum of understanding was signed. Now, President Trump says that Iran requested this meeting. We should caution that we haven't heard from the Iranian side quite yet. In fact, Iranian state media this morning disputed that there are any plans for talks this week. But still, it appears evident that the two sides were trying to work out some differences when it comes, of course, to the Strait of Hormuz, because this flare-up in fighting really seemed to be tied to vessels starting to transit through, including through a corridor backed by the U.S. that hugs the coast of Oman. And apparently, that's not the route that Iran wants to see. Instead, they want ships to transit closer to their own coastline. Now, we'll have to see where this goes from here. We heard from Iran's foreign minister just yesterday saying that Iran maintains full control over the strait and has the sole authority, in his words, when it comes to managing the strait, something that the U.S. disputes would be in any sort of deal. Even with the flare-up intention, Danny, we did still see vessels transiting through. There was a drop in observed transit, according to data analyzed by Bloomberg News, but still those traffic levels remained much higher than they were amid the height of the conflict.
Well, Tyler, what does it mean for the talks in Doha?
The company is soaring on the back of Comcast's planned spinoff, as well as Bloomberg's report that Charter is in talks with SpaceX for a potential
development. At the same time, we saw a lot of like about some of the big AI spenders, like Microsoft, starting to shift toward cheaper models, starting to shift to maybe a token mining type philosophy as opposed to the token maxing of the first half. And I think all of that gave a bit of a pause to the narrative. And I think we'll see more of over the course.
America is also interesting because it's not just the equity and what they're building, but it's also just how this stuff gets financed. Not I think Lazard as a whole has been at really a critical juncture of that. You've had so many companies come to market. SK Hynix wants to list in the US. You had SpaceX, but then you have OpenAI delaying their IPO. SpaceX bonds are now trading at a discount. Is financing going to come under stress too, at least when it comes to public equity and credit?
I think that's certainly what the markets are reckoning with right now. What we're seeing is it's a very new kind of not just technology, but it's a very new kind of market feedback that investors are struggling to figure out how to deal with. Most financial market watchers, most people in my cohort spent their whole adulthoods worried about aggregate demand. Like our government's going to stimulate enough to get out of this recessionary hole. Our consumers and businesses going to spend or invest enough. Most of the uncertainty today is different. It's about supply. Is the productivity shock from AI yet real as some of the optimists think or not? What we saw last week was a little bit of a flip in that enthusiasm. Now, Lazard, we still expect the technology to be radically transformative. It's transforming the way we work day to day, as I know it is for everyone across the industry. But I do think there's a tension between the really enthusiastic multiples and valuations in some of these asset prices right now.
Is it just a timing issue then of like, are you getting a return on investment for these AI companies soon enough to allow an equity market to reward them?
I think markets get confidence from using historical data to make forecasts. And in AI space, we don't have that historical data.
True.
So the pricing that economists and traders have to put into their models for how much money these frontier model producers are going to make over the coming years, it has to be necessarily based much more on speculation and intuition and creativity than in conventional industries. That leads to more uncertainty. And when you get a little piece of bad news, that leads to a bigger negative.
Your CEO who I spoke to has been really great on this, that like there have historically been technological disruptions, but this is the quickest and fastest one we've gotten. So how do you handle that? How do you think about where to invest for the long term if we don't know what things will look like in 5 years' time?
Well, in my view, Lazard's an active management shop. Our business model is predicated on our ability to understand the world a little bit better than our competitors, see what's coming around the corner in terms of how these companies are going to develop. And for that kind of a business model, I think this is the perfect it's the perfect canvas for us to really think bold and creatively about how these companies are going to operate. So we're thinking about the financing angle. Who is it that's extending credit to these producers, and where are the places that are going to benefit from the technology that aren't the super headline sexy names that are producing the expensive models today? Because as we're seeing with some of these open source Chinese models, there's less confidence that the same models are going to continue to dominate the landscape. The model layer might be less important than we all think.
It's so interesting to look at like the most latest release of one of those Chinese open source models, basically like hitting a lot of the same metrics as the best from here. Eric, you're going to stick with us. We have more to discuss and the opening bell coming up and a quick check on markets ahead of that. We are looking at a rally after 5 consecutive days of losses, the first time that that's happened so far this year. On the other side of this break, your opening bell.
Do you mind being called an ideological lunatic or a bunch of left-wing nut jobs?
I've been called worse things than that.
Oh, you think she owned the place?
23andMe, I think, is so incredibly valuable. We're coming back.
It had that kind of detective story feel to it. When you're hot on the trail of something, you know that it's very exciting. What magazines were you reading as a kid? I don't think I was reading magazines until I was in them. You are on the cover of all of these.
Oh, and there's many, many more, but we just don't have time.
Why should people trust you?
I don't think anybody can trust any company or entity completely with any of this.
It's very uncomfortable. Artificial intelligence is this force that is far bigger than we are.
I want to build better businesses around these brands. The shock will never wear off.
So you're a brother and sister running one of the most powerful companies in the world. When you argue, who wins?
You know what? The way I could see AI being banned or blocked is if something really went wrong. And if something really went wrong, then maybe it deserves to be.
So is it Paradise Ahead or Gattaca? Maybe somewhere in the middle.
The countdown is on. Everything you need to get the edge at the end of the market day. Get ahead of tomorrow's trading with The Close. Weekdays on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Join me each week on Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Just moments away from the start of your cash trade. You're watching Bloomberg Open Interest with me, Lynn Berger. Matt Miller is off. It's a market that is trying to find its footing. We are buying the dip, and what a dip it was yesterday. 5 consecutive days of selling. Interesting to see things like small caps and equal weight outperform as tech down, but rebounding in tech this morning, kind of the opposite of what we saw last week. The Nasdaq up nearly 1% as the S&P is up 0.7%. Some interesting bell ringers down at the New York Stock Exchange. We see Del Monte. They are the produce company, and they are merging together their fresh business and their packaged business. The CEO at the front of the podium, and we will be speaking to him in the next hour. So we wish him a safe travel as he goes from the New York Stock Exchange down here to Bloomberg's offices. Over here, I'm guessing this is a flight hanger and not the NASDAQ. We will see the NASDAQ in a moment. There you go. It is Honeywell Aerospace. Some more deal news there. They have just spun off from Honeywell. I talked to the CEO about this. They have been very busy spinning off non-core assets, and the CEO of Honeywell Aerospace will be joining the close. So some exciting bell ringers. Let's look at some of the individual names this morning. Because we were buying the dip in NVIDIA, that stops. We're still down 0.1%. And look at Micron, down nearly 2% despite the entirety of the NASDAQ bouncing back. Again, this real angst over the AI trade does not seem to be going anywhere. We're just talking about Eric with that. And then also looking at Comcast this morning, that's up nearly 11%. It has announced plans to split its media and telecom business next year. So NBC Universal and Sky will be pushed to the side, and Comcast remains. Again, that's up almost 10%. Let's head back over the desk. Still with us is Lazard Chief Investment Strategist, Eric Van Nostrand. Eric, so we were just talking about, again, the wobbles in the tech trade. But the other thing that seems to kind of have lost its punch is something that was dominating, and it's headline risk, specifically around Iran and what the price of oil is doing. It seems like it's confined to the weekends at that moment, but I just wonder if we are at $70 a barrel for oil, if just the headline risk doesn't matter as much anymore.
Yeah, look, I think the Trump administration and the general policymaking community around the Iran war has done a pretty good job convincing markets that there's nothing much to see here on the supply shock front. And I just think that's out of touch with the economic reality. I think even as we see the tensions ease meaningfully, and I'm as encouraged as everyone by each round of apparent truce or ceasefire, but it seems like we've been through a lot of them now.
Yeah.
This is still unequivocally the biggest supply shock of our adult life.
Why aren't oil prices showing that then? Why is there still this disconnect?
I think markets tend to move on short-term psychology. And I think the positive vibes around the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz looking a lot better than it did last week compared to the weeks before, has a lot of people speculatively positioning for cheaper oil. I think what they're generally overlooking is that price of crude oil in the Gulf is not the same thing as the price of retail gasoline in Ohio. And what's happened over the past couple months is inventories of gas have been drawn down substantially over the past couple months to keep retail gas prices in the United States and in Europe and in other developed economies from skyrocketing further. Now we're operating in a world with lower inventories, so less cushion for oil producers to manage. So every incremental piece of bad news in the Gulf can have a bigger downside impact on the prices.
So even if we were to reach some sort of truce and you get shipping moving through the Strait of Hormuz, and I'm assuming here that it moves through not at 100%, but slowly inches our way back up, what is the timeline then, or a catalyst that creates the paper markets, forces the paper markets rather to reflect the physical markets?
Yeah, and look, I think that would be good, to be clear, and it would help moderate the oil price outlook from where it stands from here. But what you're likely to see in the near term is narratives around producers and gasoline retailers in the United States who are inventory constrained, even as that traffic through the strait starts to slowly climb up, because they used up all their cushion. They used up a lot of their cushion, insulating consumers from the past couple months. And if you were to double on top of that, another pause like we saw 2-3 days ago in the market's confidence in the peacemaking process, that's going to be a worse outcome for markets than the last round of tension, because now there aren't any inventories to add some cushion.
Well, markets have started to back off the most extreme rate hikes that were priced in. And in large part, it's because of this. We're going to hear from Chair Kevin Warsh this week from Sintra, who's probably going to do his best to say nothing, given how the Fed decision went last time around. Well, what are you expecting and what are you looking out for?
Well, obviously, it makes sense that the market should be looking for fewer hikes than they did a couple weeks ago, given how much we've seen the oil price come down. But my basic point here is that we are not out of the woods for inflation-related supply tensions in the oil market. And I still think we're going to see a conversation both about domestic oil prices, but also about monetary policy and interest rates in the United States that veers in the direction of tighter rates to combat an inflationary problem that we're not through yet. I think the Fed will talk about looking through this as a supply shock rather than a demand shock, to go back to my earlier point.
Sure.
But I still think there's a little too much optimism in markets right now that we're just out of the woods on inflation in a way that's disconnected from the economic reality.
What should be pricing that in? Is this a bond market story, or do you think equities, again, we sold off yesterday, but having nothing to do with inflation, do you think equities are a problem where they are right now too?
I think bond markets are actually a little closer to the mark in terms of the historically high levels of long-term interest rates that we've seen on US Treasury debt and other global sovereign bonds. I do think are reflecting some expectation of more geopolitical disruption and persistently higher inflation globally. But at the same time, I think equities, in large part because of our first conversation on AI optimism, are starting to look through some of the inflationary risks at their peril.
I just wonder, again, going back to Sintra, because we're used to more than 15 years of deciding how we should react to macroeconomic data based on what the Fed is telling us. We really use them as a guide. That's disappearing. Is there a risk that the market still tries to do that it overinterpolates something that Kevin Warsh says, or it takes a piece of data and runs with it because it assumes something that is no longer assumption? Just like kind of how new of a world are we living in and trying to get a market reaction from different macro data?
Yeah, it's a great question because it goes right to the point I started with about demand and supply. The Fed, I love watching the Fed as much as anyone. I grew up a Fed, still am. They're a lot of fun. But they are not the be-all and end-all of everything. Their mission is demand management, price stability, and full employment, and both of that involves tweaking aggregate demand. The big themes we've been talking about today are mostly about changing supply shocks that the Fed doesn't really have the toolkit to engage with. I think Chairman Warsh knows that. I think he's made that clear in his a lot of his public remarks coming into the job. So we should expect monetary policy to explain less of the variance in market outcomes than we're used to from the past couple of decades.
Eric, just lastly, and just to end it on the AI point, because we've been talking about how dominant of a force it is in equity markets. I wonder, as these hyperscalers turn more to bond markets, does that present an issue when you're putting together a cross-asset portfolio that all of a sudden, corporate bond markets are starting to look more tech concentrated? and perhaps there are sort of less of ballast or less offsets to each other as they once were?
It's the right question, and it does reflect, I think, the changing nature of the way these hyperscalers are financing themselves. But I tend to bristle a little bit when I see some headlines that sound like, oh, we should panic because someone's going, because an AI firm is going into debt.
Sure.
All great American companies have a certain amount of debt financing. It's a very healthy way to organize one's capital stack. So that by itself isn't a negative signal to me. What is a negative signal to me are the very deep existential questions about whether these expensive American frontier models are going to be the main suppliers of reasoning as a commodity when China can put out these cheap open source.
Does that mean when these stocks IPO, OpenAI, Anthropic, at already very lofty multiples, that they're maybe not as attractive right now to actually own?
Well, look, I think, they're at lofty multiples because no one else who's ever IPO'd has had the kind of investor confidence in their cash flow paths, right? And to be very clear, I share the confidence that these are going to be transformative entities. But, when you're trading at 100x sales, there's a lot of daylight between that, between optimism and that kind of multiple, right? And it is more uncertain than the cash flow paths of historical IPOs. And that does lead to some downside risk.
All right, Eric, we're gonna have to leave it there. It's so great to get you on. Please come join us again soon. That is Eric Van Nostrom of Lazard. And let's get a check on your equity market about 9 minutes into your trading day. And we are moving higher, pretty even breadth to the upside and downside. Leading us higher is a rebound in the Mag 7. So you have Amazon at the top of the pile in terms of how many points it's contributing to the S&P 500, adding 7.6 points. The S&P itself is up about 51 points. A really good prime day. We're going to talk about that in a bit, but it might not just be that. Again, it looks like just mass buying in the Mag 7s that have been beat up and are down more than 10% from their peaks. So Alphabet, Microsoft, Broadcom, NVIDIA, Meta, Apple, all those names having a good day. Interesting to see chip stocks, another very not so good day. Micron down 3.5%, as is Intel, SanDisk on news, maybe not on the news, but maybe related to the news that SK Hynix and Samsung are going to spend something like $800 billion over the next few years building out some of their capacity. Verizon announcing a deal with BT, but also having results. They're falling alongside AT&T and some healthcare companies not doing well either. Healthcare has been outperforming the S&P 500 by the greatest degree since 2020. So when you look at the individual sectors, again, communications, that's at the top of the pile because that's where a lot of those Mag 7s live, up 2.4%, followed by consumer discretion and infotech at the bottom of the screen, materials, real estate, and utilities. So some bond proxies having a not great day. Coming up, Comcast soars on plans to split into two companies. It creates a whole new media firm. That's coming up next. You're watching Bloomberg Open Interest.
My old mentor, Roger Staubach, who told me when I transitioned, football will never leave you, but you need to leave it.
Wow.
Everyone has a dream. And a lot of dreams are, my dream is to play football and play professional football. And you get the dream comes true, but it is going to end. And the day it ends, the day before it ends, you're one of the best in the world. Great. The next day you wake up, that's gone. What are you great at? And the truth is nothing, right? I'm not great at anything else.
I talk about it all the time, Steve, is this whole idea of it's not from penthouse to penthouse. And what I mean by that is you played for 15, 20 years and you're in the penthouse. It doesn't mean that you come to the business world and you're going to be in the penthouse. Now, you don't start on the third floor or the lobby. You actually have to start in the basement.
Welcome to Bloomberg This Weekend. I'm David Gura.
I'm Lisa Mateo.
I'm Christina Raffini. We're tracking breaking news today from Wall Street to Washington. Let's start overseas. It's really propelling the field forward.
Yeah, the hope is this will open up new markets and provide some additional liquidity.
Of course, now they're
Big week coming up in politics.
Earnings season's underway. We're going to get some key reports.
Everything you need to know before the markets open on Monday.
Introducing Bloomberg This Weekend, bringing a little Bloomberg into your weekend routine.
Guys, buckle up. Bringing you up to them in the news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Sherian in Seoul, and this is Bloomberg. Asia is at the forefront of some of the world's biggest stories. And we're here where the action starts in Sydney and in Tokyo, yet ahead as the global trading day begins. The Asia Trade, weekdays only on Bloomberg. The Middle East and Africa regions are home to some of the biggest deals and fastest growth in the world. Vibrant resources and high-yield investment opportunities abound. I'm Jumana Bersekhi. Join me on Bloomberg Horizon's Middle East and Africa for the stories, newsmakers, and insights shaping the decisions of traders across this exciting region.
High levels of volatility. There's still room to maneuver.
Do see opportunities.
Allows you to increase significantly the income.
Every trading day only on Bloomberg.
10 minutes into your trading day, and we are moving higher. Even though Micron is down, the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index is fighting for gains. The NASDAQ outperforms as the Mag 7 dip buyers come in with some force, and the S&P up 0.8% after 5 consecutive days of losses. Let's get you some top calls. Here's Bloomberg's Isabel Lee with some of the sell side action this morning. Isabel.
Hi, Danny. First up, we're looking at Citizens. They're starting Six Flags coverage with a market outperform rating, saying that the theme park operator is poised for a turnaround. The firm sees a new CEO unlocking value across the portfolio, dividing attendance growth, and strengthening the balance sheet. Next up, Philips Securities. They're cutting sales force, saying growth is slowing despite its early AI lead. So the firm says AI revenue will probably be too small to lift overall sales for several years. And finally, we're looking at Seaport Global Securities. They're upgrading Warner Brothers Discovery's, calling it a buying opportunity as a deal closure risk around Paramount's guidance eases and as regulatory approval moves quickly. Those are your top calls. Danny?
Isabel, thank you very much. Let's stay in the world of media deals, and Comcast is splitting up to create a new media firm next year. It will separate its NBC Universal and Sky Group segments into their own company, separating it from the telecom business. Bloomberg's Leanna Baker joins us and covers M&A for Bloomberg. This feels like an effort, a years-long effort that Comcast has been going under. Of course, they've already spun out some other their media businesses. Did this always seem like the plan for them to just get telecoms to stand alone?
It was definitely something we've been chasing for a long time. We couldn't quite catch the announcement. No one broke this big news that they're splitting, but it really is years in the making. This is a trend right now for media companies. It's not just Comcast. Before Warner Brothers sold to Paramount, they were going to do a split. And it just feels like every few years, companies decide to spin off to grow, get slimmer to grow. And it's something we're seeing across all industries, not just media. Although it is interesting, we're seeing all these media deals this week when Sun Valley kicks off next week. So I wonder what we're going to be talking about then.
They're a big enough run out of. And I know your team's going to be there, so I'm excited to hear what does come from it. But is part of this just that these media assets are just unloved? You want to spin them off, not have them under your roof? I mean, Versant, thank you.
So
Verdant's down like 21% since they've spun off from Comcast.
I think people are still trying to understand that stock, but they obviously have assets that we know, like Sci-Fi and the Golf Channel, and they're trying to build out the company through some acquisitions. And I think that's something that Brian Roberts, who's going to be the chairman of both Comcast and NBC Universal, has said today on the conference call. He wants these companies to keep growing. So it's not just about slimming them down. It's about directing them towards growth and in a slimmer way, losing that conglomerate discount. But something we see in M&A is that every few years you go from scale to slimming down. So maybe in a few years they could get together again. And I saw there was even some chatter, could NBC Universal merge with Versant? So you never know, how the trends are in consolidation.
Well, in terms of getting bigger, not necessarily getting bigger, I guess just partnering up. Your team has also been on the story about Verizon and BT, the UK telecom provider. What sort of arrangement are they reaching together?
The exact same themes as this Comcast split. These assets were unloved. Verizon's new CEO, Dan Schulman, who came from PayPal, he's been clear that they want to make divestitures. They want to slim down things that aren't growing as fast. And British Telecom has also for years been trying to deal with their international business. They had been approaching different competitors. So this is a way to sort of do a bespoke deal. You combine these in a 50-50 JV. That's really hard to do in M&A. Verizon's going to have a payment to British Telecom, and it's supposed to create this bigger international company focused on business customers. And it's a way for these companies to get this off their balance sheet and create a new entity.
Just finally, Leanna, I know that there has been a little bit of discussion, some chatter about SpaceX and Charter with a partnership, a mobile phone partnership, again, in the world of telcos. What might that look
It
like?
kind of got lost in the SpaceX IPO, this whole Starlink business, and we're waiting to see how we're going to get cell phone service, from SpaceX. So I think this Charter tie-up, which is not an M&A deal, it seems to be a partnership about telephone service, that could be driving Charter's stock today. There was also another satellite deal. Iridium got acquired by Rocket Lab today. So there's a lot of interest in this convergence between spectrum, mobile phones. But as you know, we don't get our cell phone service yet from satellite, maybe when you're on a plane. So this is all very futuristic, and it's something to watch whether cable companies could maybe team up for this next stage of growth.
Just on a very broad macro kind of deal lens, because I thought about this because SpaceX does their cursor deal with stock, and I remember Ryan Gould was on the Deal Show talking. I think it was a Qualcomm deal, maybe that was all stock too.
That modular.
Exactly. So with all of these, it just feels like a lot of these deals are being based on all stock deals, and I just wonder if you continue to see some market selling, especially around tech names. Do you anticipate that to slow the pace? Like how much of the deal activity we're seeing is just because markets are at an all-time high and companies can afford to do this?
One of the reasons there's going to be this rush of IPOs is that once you have currency, you could do more deals. And even now, all these companies have the currency and stock to do deals. So it's something we're watching, but you'll still see cash deals. You'll still see private equity deals or cash and stock deals. Remember those?
Yeah, those old things. Anna, thank you so much for joining. Looking forward to seeing you again on Wednesday. I hope I will, because every Wednesday, Leanna and the news team joins me on Bloomberg Deals. That's at 12 p.m. New York time. Coming up on the show, the American consumer is still spending, at least on Amazon. We're going to break down what this year's Prime Day says about the retail outlook. That's coming up just after this break, right here on Open Interest.
Bringing you up to the minute geopolitical news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja in the Lesotho Highlands, and this is Bloomberg.
From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg.
I'm Lizzie Burden in London, and these are the stories that set your agenda.
Taking you from the U.S. markets close to the overnight session in Asia. We'll walk you through what you need to know to kickstart Europe's trading day. Live from our European headquarters, we bring you the day's top market moving stories, unmatched expert analysis.
All right, main thing is guys, TP, manage your trades. That's the recipe to succeed, regardless of the condition. Anyone else holding Amazon? If you took Amazon, dollar signs in the chat. And that should possibly be 70-80%. Palantir join the chat. Palantir looking to push. See if SPY can get above that daily upside target. All out Amazon 10%, good, good, good. Good, good, good. Good morning, Diego. Good morning, guys. Again, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe. So first trade on Amazon, clean trade. Okay, you can see. We see Amazon pump to the upside.
So you choose your poison here of which one's going to break. This does look like a fortune for higher. This is nearly textbook.
Boop. Boop. More stops. Sellers getting squeezed. Bart says, sorry, translating Dutch to English. Yeah, I don't, I have nothing but respect for you guys that do that listen to me bark off all this stuff minute by minute throughout the day, and you don't even speak English as a first language. You are braver souls than me, that's for sure. Frody says in the Discord, it's hard to be patient, but the more I observe and study patterns, the clearer it gets. Thank you for your input. My pleasure. That's the way it works. You know, one thing we talk about in the workshop is that becoming a successful trader, a trader who can count on getting consistent results, which doesn't mean you're always going to win all the time. That is never, no one ever does that. But just that you can expect that by the end of the month, by the end of the quarter, you'll be profitable. To get to that point, there's like a series of different skills you have to develop. You know what I mean? Reading the chart is definitely one of them. Understanding the market behaviors, the patterns that things go through and why they go through them is another one of them. And a big part of it is learning how to execute trades, which is totally different than learning to read a chart, because there'll be times where a chart might tell you, hey, you could get into a trade right now at this moment. You could short for look above and failed the overnight high, right? But the market generated information is telling us you're actually better off buying the dip for the next move up than trying to short, assuming they're going to squeeze, the buyers. So once you understand those concepts, it becomes easier to be disciplined and to wait, because you start to kind of recognize, well, today isn't the day to take that type of trade, And so that's what I was talking about with the whole chop zone concept at the start today, is that when I know it's a chop zone, I don't have to think about anything else. I automatically know I should be super cautious entering trades first thing in the morning, because it gets very confusing in a chop zone. They make it look like it's going to break higher, and then they reverse out of nowhere. Okay. Speaking of which, this is the moment of truth for the buyers. They got to stay above the opening price. If we cross through that opening price, this market will liquidate. It'll liquidate so fast it'll make your head spin. But if the buyers do defend right now, and they do hold above the opening price, they're going to squeeze all the sellers getting short right now the way they just did a few minutes ago. So once again, we're asking a very simple question. Can they hold it? Dun dun. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Oh my God, Charles, it's gonna crash. It's gonna crash. I don't know. They just disappeared some liquidity below. It could flip here. Can they hold it? Yeah, dancing right on a razor's edge here. It either holds and we go back to the high, or it breaks. We make new lows. Dun dun. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Dan says, I was going to say risk management. Yeah, that's another step in the pattern of learning how to trade. Oh, there it is. So we are no longer bullish. You know what that means, kids? Market is still pinned. So the first target to the downside is getting back to that iceberg at 74.45 that we talked about earlier this morning, and then seeing if it'll keep going or reverse there. So this was the market trying to go higher first thing in the morning, and it couldn't do it. So we either need to go down or go sideways from here. What's chop got to do with it? And you say to me, but Charles, how on earth could we have predicted ahead of time that this was going to happen? We focus on those volume dots. More short covering, less likely to keep going. So I'm watching for a potential bounce right below the current A period low, because that will clean up that iceberg. And we got some nice cumulative volume there. So we may get a bounce around 74.40. That is also, as we discussed, kind of the area the pin starts. We'd say it's between 74.30 and 74.40. So that's where, market makers will start hedging in there and start kind of absorbing as the market sells into it. If that doesn't hold as support, the next area I'm watching, I got to have a lot of them because I don't know exactly where it's going to reverse. So the next one I'd be watching is around 74.31 and then 74.13. Okay. I do suspect one of those is going to hold, and then we'll turn around and come back up through the opening price. If not, if we start to get down here below, say 74.20, and we start to get new selling down there, then we're bearish to head back down towards Friday's opening price. Okay. So right now I'm expecting chop. I'm expecting sideways, up and down and up and down and up and down for hours. But if we start to get that new selling, I'll change my mind. With that, I must say goodbye. I must say farewell. Do not sleep on that discount from Bookmap, that 4th of July special. Okay. You definitely want to, take that into consideration. That's a really great deal. Also, if you're not a member of the brigade, that's a really great deal. And you can see the link at the top of the page, piratetraders.io/join. Okay. We'd love to have you. It's $20 a month. And I do these live streams every single morning. So you get to hang out for the first hour of the day every day. And I'll give you my live take on what's happening tick by tick as the market moves. I also send out an email with my pre-market plan for the day. Where do I think the market is going to reverse? Where do I see opportunities for entries? Today, that pre-market plan was do nothing for the first hour of the day and wait to see what the market is doing. Okay. So I don't always have an answer before the market opens, but when I do, I share that via email before the opening bell even rings. So if you're interested in that, if you think that having my guidance for an entire month will get you into even one trade that'll pay you more than 2 ticks of profit, or it'll get you to avoid one trade where you might lose more than 2 ticks in losses, well, then the membership will absolutely pay for itself. And we'd love to have you. piratetraders.io/join. Join the brigade, me hearties. Trade with a team. With that, I will say goodbye. And members of the brigade, I will see you in the live stream in about 5 minutes. Be there.
There. the latest one on volume 2. So it appears that silver is ready for a move down at least or another retest of 57.87, which holy crap, that's tanking. And then down to 55. I haven't paid attention to silver in a while. It's getting crushed. Wow, what a destruction. Interesting. Boom. Let's see. I don't need the I'm in type of call out, but I obviously absolutely love to talk. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it, Dave. Thank you. Try to explain my thoughts as fast as I have, which is sometimes pretty slow. Still top here. Gold high volume. Right here. Gold. Yeah, gold's coming off here, high volume bottom wick right there at 4036. So if you're tracking gold, which this may be a very good 3C. Now gold does have a tendency to sweep before bouncing. So here is the demand for gold. Your 3C, if you go to the Cinco, depending on the time frame now, I think we just started a new candle. Yeah, so your 3C is going to be roughly 4042 for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an alert on this. See if that bounces. Gold loves to 3C with high volume, then fail 3C again with less volume to recover. Yeah, buddy. All right, NASDAQ is breaking down here, absorbing through this area without a failure, not a confirmed bounce there. So it's nice that it's still coming off here. Currently flat, no positions for me. What's up, Will? Good morning. Bienvenidos. I like to play by play. It's like, the emotions are telling us to do the wrong thing. It keeps us steady. That's what I try to do. That's what I try to do. Yes, NASDAQ are both bouncing. Gold is coming off through the demand with volume. So this disregards this volume spike here. So you can't play by this volume spike yet here because we've now absorbed high volume to even higher volume. Look at that. Even higher volume. Where's my gold chart? I want to know where the gold's at. High volume bottom like there. Can we get a wick on the gold? Let's go look left. Already taken out low of the day. Next target 4,000. Very aggressive selling on gold. You need the wicks though. Don't go front running a sell off like this without a wick. You need a wick. John Wick. We're finding value where value is to be had. NASDAQ still selling. Good stuff. Good stuff. So we don't have another volume spike on NASDAQ. This is bearish. We've already caught the short on this. And I'm just watching for another moment. I'd love to get a high volume bounce, but not yet. This is a waterfall style price action. You cannot buy the dip on water style price action without 3Cs. or a significant location, of which we have neither. If we come down to overnight low, you bet your bottom, I will sling some long positions. If we get down to overnight low. Gold hold and put on a bounce with that volume spike. Let's go to the 5. So I don't have a 3C trigger yet on the 5. It would be quite high. That would be a difficult one to wait for. But we're waiting here. We're waiting here. Another volume spike. A lot of volume. NASDAQ is still following the downtrend. 30, highest volume candle of the day by a long shot off the overnight low positions. I cannot orchestrate this better for you. It's incredible. These overnight low levels are low hanging fruit. It's low hanging fruit. Makes you want to say da 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 da. Da 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 da. No diggity. I love it. Right there, baby. That's as clean as it gets, man. One touch, high volume bottom tick, right there. That's as clean as it gets. I don't know how far or how long. That's scalpable plays. What's Hero say about this bottom weight? We stopped selling calls. They went down to 1.2 billion, and we've been there since 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern time. We haven't sold any more calls. And they're starting to sell off the puts that they bought. Right there. 3.4 right there. Wish I'd taken some profit out here. Great trade. Nice. Well done, J No Trade. Right here. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Nvidia's getting crushed. Everything's getting crushed, man. Everything's getting crushed. Nasdaq's 29,290. Putting on a high volume move into the overnight lows area. MU's down 9%. Yeah, it's getting crushed. It's getting crushed. But we have a reprieve here. We've got some high volume bottom wicks. We've got it in consolidation zone, which I think is going to be temporary accumulation. And 350 will get us up. 360, there we go. 370, still going. $380, still going. Once we clear this right here at 380, it'll be off to the freaking races, baby. I'm done with props. This is an IBKR trade. Can we get 400? 380 is our trigger for up into the 500 mark. There we go. There we go. Boom. Quick. Like Tiger. Quick like Tiger. There it is. Give me the big greenie. I'm going to set it up. I don't want to get encapsulated. I'm just making up now. I'm just making up words now. There it goes. 390. Give me 400. Give it to daddy. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Amazing how it is when dollar figures
Amazing
fly,
how
baby.
Dollar figures fly, baby.
Love it. I am done for the day.
Love it.
That is
I
a
am done
good
for the
amount
day.
of money for the day. I've earned my freedom.
Good amount of money for the day. I've
I want
earned
to
my
have a good
freedom.
week, and this is a very large sell-off, and I exploited the overnight low area.
Exploited the overnight low
There we
area.
go, baby.
So I'm good to go. I'm good to go. Makes me want to say, best week of the year. It is the best week of the year, baby. It is the best week of the year. I've got my fireworks purchased. Now I spent last week building all the mortar racks. Now I have to load the mortar racks, fuse them all together, baby. All right, 2 trades for me today. One long, just got out of the long, and one short this morning. So I caught the top and I caught the bottom. Come to daddy. Sit on daddy's lap and tell you what you want for 4th of July. What kind of fireworks do you want for 4th of July? Come sit up there. I'm done for the day. Also, printing money is working on all center. Yeah, buddy. What's up, Dave? Hey, I hope you're stateside again. I was wondering about your countrymen. A lot of people getting hurt over there. Top's not in yet. You don't think so? I don't know. We'll see. That's exactly why I wanted to take my long position, because shenanigans. 53027 past my first. You got locking out now. Good job, Walker. Walker, Texas Ranger over here, baby. Come sit out in the founding father's lap and tell me your wishes. I wish for a free country that's free of King George. Your wish is granted. Cannot resist. Yeah, buddy. Overnight low levels with volume. That's all I need to do right there. That's all I need to do right there. Y'all wanted call outs? I'll give you call outs. You degenerates. Don't throw chum in the water. I'll throw chum in the water. J-Dog. I love it. I love it. You were long there too. Nice disciple.
I can buy the wife materials for that clay oven she wants. Nice. Easiest strategy is to wait. 100%, man. Look how patient I was. So let's recap what just happened there. I shorted nearly to the top. I got out at a very good profit, but it kept on going after I got out. So it kept on going another 300 points after I got out of my short. But I didn't chase another short position. I didn't FOMO into another short position. I waited, and now I want to play the opposite side of the trade. I waited for the long bounce, and I longed almost the exact bottom. And we bounced from the overnight low because I know the overnight low is coming. And I know that you know that I know they're going to defend the overnight low to some degree. It could be either one massive bottom wick, it could be a full on reversal. I don't know, but they are going to do it. And us as day traders and scalpers, we don't need we don't need a 500 point trade to make money. All we need on NASDAQ is 50 points, 60 points. So I just waited for the long opportunity. I took the long. I got in 111 points on the bounce. And that's all I need. And here I am sipping my V8 energy drink. That's all I need. And I just got my trigger, gold just bounced. I just heard the audio alert. That's all I need. Patience is the number one key there. I'm not chasing anything. I'm not FOMOing. Holy crap, I closed too early. My wife's going to leave me for her boyfriend. No. I'm literally just waiting for my opportune moment. I don't care if I got out early. I don't care as long as I see what I need to see. That's it. That's it. She'll be disappointed anyway. That's awesome, J Dog. Here, I want to show you this. So this is only half my Rex. The other halves are in the the other halves are in the barn I have to go get. But here's half my Rex. There you go. I took the picture with my phone. Obviously, I've got like an iPhone 9, so it's the pictures are terrible. So I apologize for the image quality, but we're showing each other Rex now. Yeah. Or potato 9. You know. Where do you put your stop for an overnight bounce? Good question. Below the bottom wick. So anything below 275, because if that candle gives out, most likely it'll be a very large move down. And you've got to be able to defend that move. That's it. As always, a pleasure. Going to do some yard work. Thanks for the help. Nice Crucio. Appreciate you being here, buddy. Spread the word. Let me know if you have any questions. You're still in the long. Nice, McGabagooley. Well, freaking done. Ah, crap. Nice. We use wires now, but it says doesn't want no lighters. Yeah, that's the next step. I need to do that. I'm trying to learn about that. I'm trying to learn about the electronic ignition system. I'm still using hard fuses now. Hey, you don't need to be here, bro. What are you doing? Oh, okay, here it is. You can do that thing. Hard fuse, a lot more fun. Massive move here, baby. Massive. What a wonderful morning. What's up, Lee? Did you try that Google Translate? I haven't, but I did see other people try it. It worked for them. So I mean, I trusted that, but that's insane. Y'all see that? That may, do you understand? Like my mind blows when I see that. I don't understand it. What are the odds of that actually occurring? Of that actually being a thing in reality? It just tells us we're in a simulation. Like the Matrix is messing with us. The creators of the Matrix are like, hey, upload this to mess with them. They're all gonna laugh and stuff. So I've been reverting back to the bad habits of jumping in and out before the big moves. All right, Psyche Guru, what can we do to fix that? What can we do to fix that? Man, y'all gotta help me, man. I need a timer to shut these streams off at 10 o'clock. Like I just gave them another 30 minutes of freebies. I tried it in front of her and tried another app, but it was the same. Do we have anyone who actually speaks Russian? To confirm that. I need a Russian speaker. What did you miss, J-Dog? If you take Epstein and put it in and you bring up a Google Translate where you translate it from Russian to English, and you type in Epstein into the Russian part, and then after Epstein, you type in Epstein fell backwards. It comes up as Epstein didn't kill himself. Like, what are the freaking odds? Here, Kennedy just posted it. I held that long and just hit the target. Nice, June. Well done, buddy. Well done. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. That's some insane planning. Yeah, it is. Finally back on track and working on something relaxing for fun. There's a treasure inside, John. Nice. I remember I told you Pastor still in here, by the way. I haven't done any of my podcasts based on religious stuff. Obviously, it's a big part of my life, though. But the past two sermons are perfect for me, and I think they're perfect for you as a trader. Like every trader, especially if you're in a business for trading, needs to listen to the past two sermons that I just listened to. They're extraordinary, and I'm going to do a podcast about them. They're extraordinary. Deuteronomy, Joshua 1 and 2, right? They tie together. It's extraordinary. And then it comes into, oh, it's great. Does it report them? They are. Yeah. It's a big church. They're starting to develop a national following. I'm sure you've seen them before. I've seen them on Twitter. 250 points. Nice, McGavin. Keep it going, baby. Keep it going. Is it the late night guy at the Opry? No. Boom, big blast off 29,640. My pastor is he is 6'7", like truly 6'7". I'm just picking and he's yoked. Imagine like that. Appreciate the extra time. I just think I need to sit on my hands for a while. I seem to be jumping up in the entry. I'm sure I need to evaluate something. Well, the only thing I can offer you, man, is patience. I know it's easier said than done, but I get excited when I see these big sell-offs like this in this environment because I know it's coming. I've got my short position on, and I'm just waiting like a sniper, and I can care less about anything that happens before now. And I don't like. I missed out on 300 points of additional selling after I got out because I'm simply just waiting for my long position. Now, some people are like, oh, you're an idiot. You could have caught an extra 300 points. They're missing the point when you say stuff like that. When you hear people making comments to you on the internet like that, they're missing the point, and I guarantee you they are not profitable because if you're trying to catch every single point of every single move without entry or qualification, you're not going to be doing well. So me personally, okay, cool. I got out of a short position, a touch too early. That's okay. I'm just going to wait because I know it's coming. And you snipe at me. How do you get notifications on the day for a channel? If you want to get notified for the trades I take, you have to go into the choose your role channel and vote for whichever role you want. Right there, just posted the channel. I just got out of that trade for 265 points. Nice, Cole. Well done. Well done. Choose your role doesn't have anything related to day trade challenge. Yeah, it does. So it's not the channel you want. It's the trades notification. So you see how I'm adding trades in that channel. That's what it's going to connect to. So there you go. Some people are doing it. What do you think? Conference still happening this summer? I'm trying, man. I've got a very busy life. And what happened last week is not the most encouraging for me to schedule a conference, but we'll figure something out. Figure something out. Probably gonna be a small event. We'll see. If you got a sec, take a look at Tractor Supply's chart. Man, judging by my chicken feed, I'm sure they're doing well. Definitely. I took a call way too early on that drop, averaged down on your entry, and sold both profitable. Nice, Trippy Mike. Glad it worked out for you, homie. Glad it worked out for you. I'm probably going to call it for the day there. There's really no reason for me to take another trade after the amount of money I just made. I've secured another take payout on take profit trader. Hey, I may long this. What do you see? Who's my 3C people? What do you see on this chart? What do you see on this chart? Well done, Magabaguli. Maybe you should have an event organizer. Yeah, it's my wife. Even though she just made me a drink with a cup that's got a hole in it, so she may not be here anymore after today. That was good. She's great. You're fired. Yeah. When you long individual companies, are you doing options or buying actual shares? Mostly, I'm going to be doing options on a name like this that's this small. I'd probably be just doing shares. I wouldn't do options. I don't like taking options on small caps, which is why I've never caught a $50 million trade like GameStop because I'm a big puss. Yeah, you're welcome. Psychic. I like the shirt. All right. Any questions about anything? Right now, the Russian definition of empty means wild or rock. I looked at the source out of USA's information on the side, and I think is incorrect. Ah, okay. Yeah, but what about the reverse? You got to look at the reverse definition, like spell it backwards. So what is that? It would be NIEN. Yeah. Reverse means nothing. Huh. Interesting. Well, there you go. It does seem too good to be true. Oh, well, thanks for looking that up, Damien. I came across a priest in Nashville on YouTube, and his sermon was amazing. He's a former Wall Street broker, multimillionaire. He said he did every sin imaginable, and that conversation became a priest. I was going to share it here, but it really pertains to a lot of us with the creation of prayer or providence. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah, I'll DM it. If anybody else wants it, I'll DM it to you to the chat. But I'll DM it. Yeah, so the sermon a couple of weeks ago was about how you don't lose faith in the tribulations and the trials. You lose your faith in on the peaks, on mountaintops, prosperity. They talk a lot about that. And even if you're not doing so well in America, you're still doing well. You're still doing better than 90% of the time. If you got a sec, yeah. So in summary, KX for Tractor Supply, I'm going to be looking for a long position on that. I might actually take that position That is very strong accumulation look on Tractor Supply. My temperatures in France that are overestimates. Be careful of oh, really? Prediction markets have gone insane. I'm happy been in LA. Yeah, so I think the prediction. I'm staying far away from any kind of prediction markets. I think that could wreck you. I haven't touched any of the poly markets. I haven't touched any of that stuff. I think that could get too a bad spot in your life. Generation of gamblers. Well, its sin is starting to impermeate everything about our lives. Every aspect of our life is being saturated with sin. Our young generations, shockingly, sexually degenerate. It's terrible. Who are the people with the extra income that predictions on the daily? I've never met a single person that does it. All my friends in college are recent grads just do it, so maybe on the crowd. I think the reason why not a lot of people have extra income is because the reason why they're doing it, so they could try and get some extra income without doing the actual work. What's that offer? One thing is that is disgusting. You only want me for my trades. I can't imagine what it will take to regain our virtues. It will require us losing everything to regain your virtues. It's only once you've lost everything for it to gain everything. No more trades on that about it, really. You want me for my chicken commentary? Yeah, buddy. Wife only wants chickens. She does. I'm here for the dad jokes and the Kermit voice occasionally. I can respect that. I can respect that. No watch the day trade channel. Here, day trade channel's right here. Right there. All right. I'm back. All right, where are you at, Mr. Sampson? Can you hear me? Mr. Sampson, check, check, check. Check, check, check. All right, he's not here. You. Are y'all getting notifications for the trades when I take these trades? That I'm posting them? There you go. Beautiful. Yeah, triple X get them. I feel very official when I see that stuff. Triple Mike. Yeah. All right. If you don't get notifications for the trade channel like Trippy Mike here, you need to go to the choose your role channel and vote for what you want. Which I haven't used the signals in a while, so really you just want the trades. Go to this channel right here and vote for the red emoji. Let's get your entries. Right there. That is correct, Nico. But why did I do that? Because we walked through it. Why did I do that? Tell me why. Tell me why. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, you're not going to get the notifications. You got to be a Discord member to get them. The overnight low, baby. The overnight low. With the highest volume candle of the day. Man, look at this great move. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Need a bot. Yeah, I'm going to work with some people are offering to help me develop a bot to do that. So I can notify it early as I can. I really wish I could trade like this on a pro account. I keep passing eval and eval. Why can't you? Why can't you, Jay? No trade. That's the question. I saw a movie a long time ago. With Anthony Hopkins called The Edge. It's a fantastic movie. It's about a billionaire. If you've never seen this movie, it's about a billionaire that is a very intelligent person, loves to read, and they go out in the wilderness in Alaska, I think, or Canada. I forget which. I think way out that in that area. Anyway, long story short, they get lost in the wilderness, got to leave, and he says a quote in that movie that I've seen as a kid and I've remembered ever since. And he says, "What one man can do, any man." There's not a single person out there, unless you have some obvious physical limitations. What one person can do, anyone. So if I can do it, you can do it. And I've always lived by that. Anytime I get down on myself or pity party, what was me, I would say to myself, what one man can do, any man can do. And it removes the shackles that you place upon yourself. With anything in life. It's a great book. Gonna go pirate that movie real quick. Nice. Let me rephrase that then. I know I can't. I question why I have it. There you go. There you go. Coming up on 10 o'clock. The storm in South Dakota produced storms yesterday that gave 131 miles an hour. That's normal in South Dakota. Yeah. Massive bottom link at 500 to 180 points. These are great moves right here. I watched a video of Alan Watts yesterday. Super interesting. Current. Gonna ask where you're stopping a bit. Yes, below the wick. Anything below morning, overnight low limit stopped out. Yeah. I took my accounts long today. Nice, Dr. Fred Deviesville. Well done. Great day. Great day. Thinking of joining you on the TSCO play. Anything you have against? I would like to see a higher high. I would like to see. Did I enter on the first or this retest? I entered on the retest. The second swing up, I entered. That's when I enter. You must be watching my desktop, or you're watching my desktop. 29,670 coming up. That's a 400-point bounce. This has been an extraordinary day. Quite clean, actually. I wish every day was like this. I'm very careful to use the word easy, but I will use the word clean. These have been very clean pivots. I'm really fighting the urge to jump into nothing today, fighting the old habits. There's always another day, JJ. There's always another day. Welcome, JJ. I wonder if prop firms have struck on a pattern of human success and failure. I'm curious if the thresholds they have selected are more than just pivots in their overspend mitigation. People will achieve more than a trend of 5 to 7 successful days. I guarantee you they have, even fewer will continue trending. Yeah, so I talked about that last week, and I bet you they have caught on to that. And it's one of the reasons why y'all do so well in the evals, but fail the fundeds. Because on average, it takes anywhere between 3 to 7 days for you to pass an eval, become funded. And the only way for the average trader who's not that good to do that is to go on a winning streak, which we all do. Pass the eval, you go funded, you have a day or two, and then you get wrecked, and you wonder, ¿por qué? Why? It's because you don't have a red day. It's either green or you blow up. And with the buffer so small on prop firms, it exacerbates that feature. So it's no bueno. So it's one of the reasons I advise less is more. We're not here to take 50 trades a day. We're here to take 2 trades a day. If I see you post in the channel, hey, I'm done for the day, and then I see, psych, I took another trade, like I'm not congratulating that. I want to see you all stick to your guns. I want to see you all take 1 to 2 trades a day and be done. I want to see you all put on high quality positions, waiting for outlier moves like I did today. And that's it. I'm not scalping everything in the middle. I'm taking the shorting the high. I bought the low. That is it. And I'm done. If you do that, you will have a lot more success than 2 or 3 green days and then blow it up. And I think they caught on to that. And if you can identify that trend and understand, play the averages. That's why I tell you all, when you get funded, take a couple of days off to have a break in between. You go on a 3 to 5 day winning streak to pass the eval, you get funded. Right. Give some space between the funded and the eval to reset that probability. Variable change, baby. Variable change. All that makes sense. Yeah, it's a controversial title. Yeah, I have a, you know, of course, I have my views on politics. If anyone, whatever, I'm not politics or religion. If anyone would like to have a religious conversation, I'd be happy to have a specific stream about that, and I'll let people choose who wants to be a part of it. We could discuss those topics and my views on stuff. One short? I don't know, man. I think I'm done for the day. It's coming. I don't know. The options aren't bullish, I'll tell you that. They're call selling at the moment. They're not buying puts, they're selling puts, but they are selling calls. What's up, YouTube? Anyone enjoying themselves? Big Gabagoo. A web documentary. This is honestly surprising to me today. Something liquidated this morning. Dealers are buying it back up. That's what, I mean, that's all we've been doing now though, man. Is big red, big green. It's been actually quite enjoyable. I've loved it the past week and a half. Because although if you zoom out, it looks tight, it's not. We're talking about hundreds of points ranges and quite a few days that have been crystal clear. Very high volume bottom wick, very high volume top wicks, which is not often they give that to us. There hasn't been a lot of chop here. Now, after the morning, yes, it's been choppy, which is I'm telling you all, let's get out of here after the morning and let the market do its thing until power hour. Because it does get choppy into the afternoon. I've been scalping, typically 5 minutes max. I get worried about losing position around the 15-minute marker charts, especially around the 1 hour marks and see calendar. So you have with those. What would you recommend so I get over this hump? Okay. Position sizing, of course. The rule number one, beyond everything else, rule number one is you have to have a system of entry. You have to have consistent high quality entries. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not gonna be able to survive anything. If you're shorting lows and buying highs, then you're never gonna be able to survive anything. So obviously that goes without saying, even though I just said it. So what you need to be doing is understanding that scalping and day trading, you're not really here to catch 500-point moves. It's nice when it happens, but it's so rare, you can't go for that. What you have to do is consistently apply your system to high quality areas. And then every now and then you will catch a 500-point move. I'm talking twice a quarter, maybe, if you're lucky. You'll catch two massive moves. Everything else, 5 to 15-minute positions is fine. You take it, of course, the environment will change and it'll, depending on the environment, that'll be a good or bad thing. So you consistently place your system on top of entries that are high quality and you apply it over and over and over again, day in and day out. And then most of the time, you're going to have a trade that lasts anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. You're going to take a profit of anywhere between 20 to 100 points on NASDAQ. And then every now and then, you'll catch a 3 to 500 point move. That's all you need. Those 3 to 500 point moves pay for the entire year. As much money as I made in December and January, honestly, I could stop prop trading right now and be very profitable for the rest of the year. So that's all you need, like 1 or 2 good trades a quarter, and that's it. So it's okay to have 5 or 15 minutes. Now, again, your quality of entry is going to dictate everything else. I'm expecting those days to happen more. Yeah, they won't. They won't. Don't believe what you see on the internet. If you see someone posting 500 points every day, they're probably cycling accounts like nobody's business. So those big wins only occur 1 time a year, 5 times a year, somewhere in that ballpark. That's it. And those big wins pay for your entire year. Everything else, you're just kind of treading water, biding your time, waiting for the next move, and that's trading. Supercharged El Nino Hito. is appearing all around the planet. Super El Nino charged with a much more basis have gotten me my first payout that closed today since April. Ready to do a home run swinger with my overconfidence in April took me 2 months to kill that bad habit. Still leadership. I'm doing it 90% of the influence on the social media is getting fake ego thing I need to try and keep up. Dude, you went on an absolute tear there. I mean, you did fantastic work. And then of course you have a little drawdown here, as we all do. I did too. And you're going through the cycles, man. You made some great changes to kind of taking a step back, taking a breather. Got too big for your britches. Yes, sir. We all do. We all get it. We all every now and then we got to take off our britches and realize that we're too small for a britch or too big for a britch. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. So well done on realizing that and going forth. Coming up on London close. Any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Weekly outlook. Right now, I don't see any change from last week. Look at the 4-hour chart. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 4-hour rejections off the 29, 360. So what does this look like to you? Accumulation. Accumulation. So to me, this looked bullish. I don't see any indication of selling off here. Now we are not breaking out or breaking down. We're still at the same price we were on June 23rd, which is 6 days ago. Calendar days. So all that to say is this does look like accumulation here. If it does start to claim this level and hold, then we can start looking for the engulfing candle to produce a high of June 25th, which is right at 30,265. If at any point, listen to me, escuchen. If at any point we give up 265-ish right here, in fact, I'll give you a little block. If at any point we give up this demand, you have to abandon your long bias and look for another 1,000 points down. Comprendo. I guess they heard you want Tractor Supply taking a dive. Let me see. Oh, I said that I looked at this for the first time today, so they're still down here at 31. This morning's open looks like a sweep to go higher. It does, yes, sir. It does. I posed this question or the other week. Does anyone know? Well, on TPP, you request a payout and it's approved. It goes to your wallet. Do they report that as income benefit? Draw to your bank. Only the funds that are deposited into your account, you get the 1099 from. You say account? No, your bank account. Your bank account. Yeah. Roger. I factored in all for taxes and good to know. Yep. By the way, if you are someone who is an entrepreneur making decent money, or you're taking profits, or you're taking a lot of payouts on prop firms, now's the time to start your planning for taxes for next year. Don't wait till December to start planning, especially if you're tier 2. I have given you tools to lower your tax basis. I have a set call set up every July to start the process of tax planning. Do it. Legal tax evasion for all 13 people listening. Sticking your head in the sand isn't nothing new. We have 6-7 people in the audience. Good stuff. Coming up on the close. Not much to do here except there's no short opportunity here. The option chain is not agreeing with the price action. Or whatever. We have 2 billion in calls, so we have 19 billion in puts. There's no put activity here. All right, any final questions here? 2 trades for me today posted. Beautiful stuff. Man, it's crazy how bearish people get. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a fantastic day. Nice low stress day. I mean, that's as low stress as it gets for me on a day like that. So one of these days I'm going to be in a stressful trade. Getting it together. What's SIG? SIG is a weapons manufacturing company. So, all right, y'all. Let me know if you have any questions. Hit me up in the DMs. Throw them in the chat. Otherwise, I will see you all very early tomorrow morning for fantastic. About.